will not.
Good afternoon. This is Monday, November 5th, 1990, in the local history room of the Lansing Public Library. So we'll just go with that now. I'm going to set that. I've already entered the date on this tape, and so I'll introduce myself and Joanne Jager, local history librarian here at Lansing Public Library. And we are this afternoon interviewing Max Murninghan, former Mayor of Lansing. And we'll start with some real basic questions because I haven't filled in the basic form yet. We'll get that on the tape. Give us your full name, please.
Maxwell Ernest Murninghan.
Mm-hmm. And your birth date and place?
August 18th, 1924, St. John's, Michigan.
Mm. And where were you educated?
The Lansing schools.
Mm-hmm.
I met my wife in the 4th grade at Michigan Avenue School, for example, and then Central High School, and then World War II, and then Purdue University, and then Michigan State.
Mm-hmm. So you are a native of Lansing, or the Lansing area. Grown up in Lansing.
Years, yes.
Your family was from St. John's?
Maple Rapids,
Mm-hmm.
just north of Maple,
Mm-hmm.
St. John's. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember about growing up in the area, about Lansing particularly?
Well, at that time, and that my recollection would be basically in the 1930s, Lansing was a relatively small town. Everyone knew everyone else practically, it seemed at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was away during World War II, and Lansing experienced apparently considerable expansion during the war. And then, of course, since the war, there have been a number of factors which have
Mm-hmm.
caused Lansing to increase both in population and also in square miles in
Mm-hmm.
land area. So it's more of a cosmopolitan kind of town, and yet it's a big, small town. We always think of
That's a good way to say it. It's a big, small town.
big, small town.
Mm-hmm. When you came back from the war, you got into business, or you finished your education
No,
first,
finished
and
my
then
education.
you went into business.
Then I went to work for a radio station in Independence, Missouri,
Oh.
and came back to Lansing that's after we were married in 1947. 1949 we came back to Lansing. I worked for a printing company here for a year and a half or so, or 2 years, and then I bought a printing company. And I was in that business until I owned the company until 1976.
Mm-hmm.
In 1969, actually, I took out a real estate license. And so I've been in real estate since 1969.
And you're not retired yet?
No.
You're still actively in the real estate
yes,
business?
You bet.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had some experience in politics before you became mayor. What
Yes.
were you into? You were into council?
Yes. Back in the 1950s, members of the Lansing City Council were also automatically members of the Board of Supervisors, the county governing body, the legislative body. And I was elected to City Council in 1955 and served until 1960, and so I was also a member of the Young County Board of Supervisors during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to being involved in politics, I was involved in the usual community kinds of activity, American Red Cross, Chamber of Commerce, too numerous to mention.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're young and active, you become affiliated with many organizations.
Mm-hmm. Anything in particular stay in your mind that would characterize your terms of office in council or the county supervisors board?
I don't recall anything particularly outstanding, and yet there were many, many things. Lansing adopted a new charter in I believe 1958. So I served under the old charter, then that charter, and since then another charter has been adopted. So the form of government, not in large measure, but in small measure, the form of government has changed during that period. Lansing has changed from the standpoint of the downtown area, for example, used to be the shopping area for Central Michigan. Now, shopping areas are not downtown, they're in the perimeters of Lansing. We call them malls nowadays. So that has changed. Michigan Avenue and Washington Avenue used to be major thoroughfares from the standpoint of shopping and cruising, which was a big problem in the 1950s and early 60s. Youngsters cruising up and down Washington Avenue and so forth.
What kind of a problem did that cause?
Well, it caused congestion, traffic primarily, and youngsters get in trouble. I mean, have their squabbles, and when they're driving automobiles, why it becomes a bit of a problem. Then, of course, as time went by, Lansing, in an attempt to quell the problem of traveling up and down the street, changed its parking arrangement, and then ultimately closed Washington Avenue through traffic. Now it's open again, so things tend to kind of go back to where you were. During my term on council, I started as a member of City Council when the City Hall was the old original building, kitty corner from Central Methodist Church, which is now part of the Board of Water and Light building. And City Hall was constructed while I was on the City Council, so then we moved over from the old building to the new. And during my term, the Lansing Civic Center opened, my term on the City Council. And of course now we reached the point where it's declared surplus baggage.
Did you ever believe that you would outlive the Civic Center and buildings
I'm not sure that that's the case yet, because while the developer, as I understand it, its plan at this time is to remove it and put an office structure to be leased to the state, there is some discussion of the possibility of resurrecting or utilizing the existing structure. So it's hard to tell, but no, I would not have thought that that building would go out of public use during my lifetime.
It was a major undertaking then at the time that you were on council.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I wonder what changed with Lansing that made that not feasible anymore.
I have never been in agreement for the changes that have been made. I would have thought, and of course this is long after my involvement with city government, but I would have thought that the monies spent on the new center might better have been spent on increasing the facilities at the existing civic center, modifying them, creating adequate parking with the construction of parking ramps, and utilizing that actually 2 square blocks to a greater advantage. However, they decided to build the new convention center, which doesn't have a kitchen, so it is absolutely inadequate for accommodating conventions of certain types, at least. So, this is not a problem I'm involved with, and I don't know where it's going.
You were already moved into the new city hall then when you became mayor, so you maybe didn't cut the ribbon into the mayor's office, but you came in shortly after the ribbon was cut.
I was the third mayor
the third mayor
to serve in that building.
Is that right?
Yes.
Who served as mayor just before you?
Willard Bowerman,
Bowerman, and he was only in office
one term,
one term.
4 years.
4 years?
And Ralph Kriegel was, of course, mayor for many, many years prior to that, and served as the first mayor in the new city hall.
Okay. When you became mayor, what were the major problems facing the city in your first term?
Things haven't changed that much.
Really?
The major problem with the city of Lansing and with most governmental agencies was finance. It still is. During my tenure as mayor, the citizens of Lansing adopted by election to participate in the city income tax. The result of that was that we were able to lower the property tax considerably and broaden the base of taxation and support, financial support for city government. That allowed us to do a number of things that needed doing, but the money and funds were not there.
For example?
We had an unusual amount of street construction, bridge construction. We built some parking ramps while I was mayor and planned some others which have since been built. And parenthetically, I've been disappointed in the past 10 years at the lack of continuation of the program for the last 20 years, really, of creating adequate public parking. Lansing, one of the reasons I feel that things became difficult for it continuing to be a shopping mecca was the inconvenience by lack of parking. And it's still true today. One drives around the block and the ramps are full. And I am disturbed when I see surface parking facilities such as on South Grand, where the Grand Tower is, which is a lovely building, but it's built on a parking lot that did accommodate some 200 cars, and the building itself generates a need for probably 300 to 400 cars, so that compounds an existing problem. And unfortunately, most of the new construction which has taken place has been on surface parking lots, so that problem has compounded itself, and I have not seen any solutions that have been offered that seem to me to be adequate.
The planned parking that you referred to during your term of office was part of a comprehensive plan?
Yes,
Was it for
yes.
development of traffic routes and access to downtown?
Yes,
Is that right?
parking for, long-term parking for those who were employed downtown, and short, and by rate structure, trying to make available surface lots and convenient parking for those who wish to shop and to visit the lawyer's office, the doctor's office, and so forth. There used to be a lot of doctors downtown. I don't think there are any at all now, at least not to speak of, because it's too inconvenient for patients to go to the dentist in the Michigan National Tower as they used to,
I see.
for example.
And that, do you think that maybe changes in pattern of doing things might have accounted for that too?
Well, it all contributed. It's far more convenient to be able to go to a professional building and have the parking by the door than to be fighting downtown traffic. No question of that.
Yes.
So our lifestyles have changed over the years. We do things in a specialized way now. Activities that used to mix and be mixed are now separated to the extent that we have specific housing areas, specific apartment areas, shopping malls for shopping, medical buildings, professional buildings for professions, and we used to kind of have them all lumped together. But as we have grown in size, that's been necessary, I'm sure, to accommodate the numbers of people involved.
I think you used to be able to go downtown and do several things in one trip.
Oh, absolutely.
Nowadays, you can't schedule things that well. Not everyone can accommodate your desire to do things in one trip. But,
we are losing and have lost almost all of our retail activity downtown. There really is, other than specialty shops here and there, there's very little left. We used to have Arbaugh's department store, a large department store, Knapp's, a large department store, J.C. Penney, a large department store. They are all gone, of course, and we've had, and still have a few left, specialty shops, clothing stores and so forth that are reasonably good size, but the larger ones have gone. We used to have maybe 20 or 25 places you could buy shoes. I don't think you'd find 10 now in the downtown area, just as an example. Downtown Lansing is a commerce center now, not a shopping area.
The people who would come downtown to buy shoes would be those who are probably already downtown working.
A good share of them, yes.
Do that on their lunch hour.
Downtown merchants used to exist on, primarily, to a great extent at least, on downtown workers, but also from the outside areas, and there were not enough.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, we have some ice water for you.
Good.
I just have to get the water from the, oh.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry I interrupted.
That's okay.
Where did we leave off then?
Well, I was just saying that one of the reasons I think that the stores have ceased to exist, at least in the quantity that they once did, is that the downtown workers were not, their support was not sufficient. We required outside normal shopping trips to the downtown.
And traffic and parking killed that.
Traffic and parking killed that, and so I think that's why we've lost our retail establishments.
There were a lot of things changing in Lansing in the 60s. Oh gosh, a lot of changes to the urban scene. I think it was the beginning of real efforts at urban renewal. Would you agree?
Yes, urban renewal began, and the federal legislation for urban renewal began in the period of time during which I became mayor. It was underway beforehand in Washington, but not finalized, and became a reality while I was in office. And we therefore were able to take advantage of the fundings involved. That's why community colleges in downtown Lansing now. They were prepared to go out by Mason, where they're for a rural campus setting, sponsored by the county more or less. The county inviting them out there, and that was a plan. And we found out with urban renewal we were able to assist them in their desire to stay in the downtown area.
What kind of assistance was that?
Dollars.
Money.
Federal funding.
So with federal funding, they were able to put together enough space?
Yes, they were able
the problem was?
They were able to expand to the degree required for them to carry on the program that they wanted, that they foresaw being carried on. Community college started a few years prior to that, and was originally a very small venture. Phil Gannon was the beginning of it, and operated and chaired it for many years. And he foresaw the growth that did take place, and it could not have occurred within the constraints and confines of the area in which they were located without some assistance. And so the city, utilizing urban renewal federal funding and state funding where possible, and working very closely with community college, we're able to assist them in creating what is now a bright spot in our community.
Yes. What other urban renewal projects were big during your administration?
There were some housing projects, senior citizen high-rise, things of this sort. We utilized urban renewal funds for clearing some downtown areas where 1 Michigan Avenue now stands, the office building.
What had been there before?
That was a block entirely of retail shops. A mixture of theaters,
Old buildings?
drugstores. Yes,
Were they how
that
old?
that was the historic beginning of Lansing, of Michigan, Washington. I should correct that. The beginning of Lansing was in North Lansing, actually, on Franklin Avenue, which is now called Grand River. But since the early 1900s, Michigan and Washington was the center of Lansing and still is. And so, in typical fashion, it was like any other Midwestern community, brick and stone buildings, some wood, and a mixture of activities, from theaters to hotels to
Offices of...
some cases offices above, many cases apartments above.
And those buildings were standing until raised by this urban renewal thing in what year did you say that was, about 19?
I would say about I believe it was after I left office that they finally were able to, we were in court during my term of the chair at the time because of condemnation laws. We were unable to acquire the sites that we required for that project. And I would say 73 to 75 would be the time frame that finally they acquired title. And then they met, and I was not then in office, but the administration then reviewed various proposals and determined the developer, and that's the result is the building we see today.
That was quite a change. That was one big change in the scene, wasn't
Very
it?
large change. Very large change. It was equal to the change of creating the new city hall, building a new city hall. That went on a parcel of land that was originally the YMCA was on the corner, and the furniture store was next door. The city hall was on the other side to the north of it. And by combining all of the area and having the Board of Water and Light participate in the construction of the building that they now occupy for their half of the community building known as City Hall, that was a massive change. So there have been a number of projects that have changed the face of downtown Lansing.
What kinds of changes did you see during your term that affected the way government was run? Were there not some changes in such things as boards and commissions? You mentioned this city charter that was adopted in...
Yes, the city charter which we now have is what is known as a strong mayor form of government. The charter, when I first went on the city council in 1955, there were 16 councilmen. They were called aldermen. There were 8 wards and 2 from each ward serving 2 years each. So every year half the council was up for election. In 1957 or 58, the new charter was adopted. The council was reduced to 8 members. It was a strong council, weak mayor form of government, relatively speaking. The mechanics were there for it to be a stronger mayor form of government than it operated as. In my administration, we operated, because of my background on the city council, as a quasi-strong mayor form, although technically, without the council's support, you had no authority. But I managed to maintain that support during my term. The present charter has been amended, and the mayor's function is now known as the strong mayor form. But throughout the period, going back long before and traditionally in the city of Lansing, under the very old charter, I believe 1908 was the charter that was changed prior to 1957. Lansing's form of government was boards and commissions, citizens groups on all the areas of government, creating citizen input to solve the various problems, working with city officials. And I think that made Lansing unique in that we had true cooperation and involvement of our citizenry. And so many people were involved and still are, although it's my understanding the number of boards and commissions has been reduced somewhat. There still are literally hundreds of people who are citizens serving their government, and that has made us unique over the years, and we still are. I think it has changed somewhat in that as the new charters have been adopted, some of the authority of the boards and commissions has eroded, and with the administration gaining strength.
They're used as advisory boards more
They're
than
advisory and consulting boards. And as a line of communications to the general public as to what the problems are and what we're trying to do. The police and fire board, which used to exist as a police and fire board, now there's a police board and a fire board. But their function obviously would be to, throughout the community, let it be known to the citizens the problems of the fire department and the needs of the fire department, and the same in terms of law enforcement, the needs of law enforcement agencies and so forth.
what the solutions are, so citizens aren't puzzled by what's happening downtown, as they often are. How about centralized purchasing? I mentioned that because I came across that in some clippings that we had in file.
We organized a purchasing department, and instead of each and every department doing its own purchasing, we organized a purchasing department through which all functions of purchasing would occur, which is just common sense.
That one wasn't a tough one to get across then.
No.
What were the tough ones? What you mentioned that your relations with council were good, but you must have had some hurdles.
In my 4 years in office, I never had to veto an action of the city council, and I never had the council veto an action of mine. But only because I met with council regularly, and they were always aware of what the administration was attempting to accomplish, and they were very cooperative in that endeavor.
But there were some problems with some administrators. I believe you went through a change of city attorneys a couple of times. Is that
Yes. We had a very good friend of mine was city attorney, and there was a problem personality-wise between he and various department heads and departments, and in some cases the city council. And he was a diligent, hard-working individual who was attempting to do the best that he could do, but in the process it was felt that the various departments of the city were not getting the kind of legal advice that they felt they should be getting. And I could see a problem developing that, and the council could also, that had to be resurrected, and so we ended up asking for, or suggesting that it might be well if he were to resign, which he subsequently did, and another city attorney was appointed. Everyone has a different way of operating, and I guess when you go to an attorney, whether it be a city attorney or your personal attorney, there are two things that you want to know. You want to know what the problem is and how can I resolve it. Sometimes you get a negative reaction that doesn't really lead you anywhere. Negative reaction allows you to say or to think, I can't do it that way, but there must, you have to think in your own mind, but there must be a way.
An alternative.
And if there isn't enough assistance in finding the alternative, and I think that's where the problem lay at that time. So it was an unfortunate incident, but the city has benefited, I think, from it.
So there must have been enough legal business at that time to keep quite a few attorneys busy.
Well, it was a small department. I have no idea how many are there now. When I first went on the city council, the city attorney was in private practice as well as being city attorney. It was not a full-time endeavor, although it was a full-time title, and he had an office. When the new charter came in, as the city grew, we had a city attorney and an assistant city attorney. During my tenure, we had two assistant city attorneys, one of whom was Michael Cavanaugh, who's now a Supreme Court Justice. I suspect that there probably are still two assistants in the city attorney. I'm not aware that it has grown any more since then.
Finance directors. We've already talked about finances to being the usual problems. Were there differences of opinion there, and the taxes and the revenue from parking meters and all that sort of thing?
The question always is, what do you do with the funds coming in? What is the priority for spending? Parking meter funds during my term were in expanding our parking program and launching really our parking program. We utilized bonding funds, and we pledged parking revenues to pay the bonds, which created the funds to build the parking ramps. In other words, pay as you go and let the people using the facility pay for it, as opposed to regular citizens using property taxes, and in some cases people who wouldn't need the parking and wouldn't be using it. It didn't seem appropriate to use their funds. So we established a revenue system using parking funds, and they were put in a separate, and I assume still are, in a separate category for retirement of those bonds. The finance director was a reorganization in effect, much like the purchasing of the financial affairs of the city, having one person besides the city controller, who was really just sort of a watchdog, who would be assisting the various departments in their financial endeavors and working with the city council, record keeping, allowing the administration to know where it stood in relation to the financial affairs of the city.
Do you have anything else you'd like to mention as something that you remember being particularly interesting or difficult or humorous?
One cannot reflect on the period of time that I was mayor, which was 1965 to 1969, without mentioning at least the fact that we did have as you mentioned a while ago, the turbulent 60s. We had our share in Lansing. We had some fires, and we had some minor rioting kinds of things. Nothing which would hold a candle to Detroit, but civil unrest, I think you would call it. During that same period of time, we were called upon by the University by Michigan State University and East Lansing to assist them in the problems that they had on the campus with the student uprisings that occurred during that time also. And I recall many evenings on the campus with our police chief and other officials, just kind of trying to keep track of what was going on, as was the case also during our problems in the city of Lansing. I've spent many nights out with our local officials on the streets, trying to reassure our citizenry that problems weren't that severe and they were being contained, which they were. Mm-hmm. We, during my term on the city council, Lansing expanded population-wise. During my term as mayor, Lansing expanded finance-wise because of the income tax and some prudent measures in terms of housekeeping of city government. Mm-hmm. And we'd like to think that we did something of lasting importance in terms of, as I mentioned, the parking situation, mm-hmm. Street construction, park acquisitions, some bridge construction. There are really many areas that mm-hmm. we saw progress in.
Mm-hmm. Some things you could be proud of.
Yes, I think so.
When was the last time you ran for mayor?
1969. I was defeated by 200 and some votes.
Close.
Mm-hmm. Very close.
Mm-hmm. Do you look back on your mayoral tenure as something that you feel very proud of? Do you have any regrets?
I have no regrets, and yes, I'm proud to have served as mayor of my community. Perhaps one of the major problems of 1969 was, in terms of re-election, was we were involved with urban renewal, which was not completely understood and completely supported by the community. Mm-hmm. It was another federal program and another Washington dollars, which nowadays are taken for granted, but at that time they were quite unique. Public housing was certainly not a popular move. We were involved with the introduction of public housing and low-income housing. We were trying to take care of the affairs of the city in all of the areas, and you do get a backlash sometimes. And we had a definite backlash, and I think that was a major cause of our problem in terms of re-election. Mm-hmm. But I have no regrets. Lansing has always been a wonderful community, and it certainly still is, and I'm sure will continue to be.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the things the citizens were complaining of during that time? That you said there was, other than the urban renewal, you said you were out on the streets in the evenings trying to prevent the kind of uprisings that were occurring in other cities.
Well, we have, I was referring then to our, what I would call mini riots.
Yes.
Throwing of stones,
yes.
Blocking of streets.
Were there any specific causes, underlying causes of that?
Well, it was, yes, I think it's kind of like the fire jumping the fence.
Uh-huh.
It was the turbulent 60s.
Yeah.
This was not unique to Lansing, certainly. It was not unique to Detroit, which had
Uh-huh.
some major problems.
Oh, yes.
But it went on all over the country during that era. And Lansing was just a mini version, I think,
mm-hmm.
of what was going on nationwide.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to say anything? I have a couple items here that I pulled out of the file. Maybe would jog your memory a little bit if you want to look at them. Maybe you prefer not to. If there's anything you'd like to say that we haven't talked about yet, why not? I wanted to give you a chance to.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
No. This was campaign literature. I guess it's appropriate for the season, isn't it? I don't have a date on it.
Well, that would have been 1969.
That was 69 also, huh? Uh-huh.
As was this.
Mm-hmm.
69. there were a lot of things happened during our administration that we were very proud of, and I think many of us contributed to the city, continue to contribute to the city today as to what it's like, what kind of community it is.
What's happened to you since then?
We were raising a family then, and we still are. We babysat with our granddaughter on Sunday, yesterday. I've been back in the real estate business since I left City Hall, and enjoying my activity.
Well, I enjoyed the conversation with you today. Thank you very much for being part of the Voices of Lansing. We hope that these tapes and their transcriptions will be available to future generations by being placed here in the public library. And hope that many other people will enjoy hearing what you had to say about your administration. I wanted to ask you if perhaps sometime you would like to have a second session. If you do, we can arrange it. We've only used part of the tape. If there are other subjects you'd like to cover another time, we could set that up.
Would be entirely up to you. There, you could go on for hours and hours and hours on this sort of thing.
Good.
Little details of this and that, if you could remember them all. But I'm available at your request.
I'll go through the tape, review it, and then we'll get back to you and see if there's anything else you'd like to touch on.
Okay.
Set it up.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Is it off?
It's not off yet.
Yeah.
You can stop it now if you like.
I was just going to thank you for including me in your discussion.
Let's continue this conversation now with Max Murninghan about how he got into politics in the first place. The squabble was about?
In 1954, the planning for the expansion for the construction of 496 was underway. And it was determined that it would be located between Main and St. Joe and run parallel with those streets through the city of Lansing to Pennsylvania Avenue on the east and city limits on the west. And the councilman at that time did not work with the people or seem concerned about the people who were living in that corridor. And I felt that there should be some input not only from the state and from what would be nice in terms of a highway, but also from the people who would be involved.
Whose houses were involved anyway.
Well, it was all residential, almost completely residential.
And what about those residences?
They were acquired by the state. The people were relocated. I became mayor or became a member of city council, I should say, and was able to bring about a more cooperative attitude, perhaps, in terms of accommodating the people involved.
How'd you do that?
It's too long ago to even remember, except to say that that was during the time when Lansing had 8 wards, and so the 3rd ward was a relatively small part of the city of Lansing at that time. And I had a great amount of support, obviously, from the people who were involved. I lived not too far from where this was taking place. This corridor, majority of it was in the 3rd ward from Washington Avenue west. And so I received a tremendous amount of support from those who were affected and those who were friends of those affected. And that was almost a singular issue, the concern about what might happen in regards to that construction of that highway, and also as a natural adjunct. My campaign was based, at that time, was based on the position that the city councilman should represent those who were in his ward, should have better communication with them on that and any other issues that are of concern to them, and that you really are a representative of the people of your district to the governmental body known as the city council, and not just someone who you see every 2 years when it's time for an election. Mm-hmm. So we were able to make some headway with the accommodation of the concerns of those involved in that rather, for that period of time, a rather
controversial,
major controversial undertaking.
I see. Most of us recall only the palatial mansions that were torn down to make way for that. Was there a great deal of opposition to that?
In meetings with the state, to get them to do a little relocating in terms of the specifics of where they wanted to go. Mm-hmm. But their position was that it should be as nearly as possible a straight line, and if it took some residences out that might have historic value, that was just sort of too bad. The fact is that it did take some residences out, which were of a significant value, I think, historical value to the community.
As well as architectural?
As well as architectural, but at the time, that was the best we could do. We were not able to prevail. I think in this day and age, it would be a different ballgame, perhaps, because I think as a society, we're more aware of our heritage and things that we should be keeping when we can.
Mm-hmm. Who was the major opposition to modifying the plan? The city?
No, the state.
The state.
The city really had very little to say about the plan. It was a state trunk line. It was state/federal. That's where the funds came from. Mm-hmm. That's where the decisions came from. And ours was a rear guard action, in effect, trying to minimize the impact on the community.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it was certainly has proven to be a very desirable and was needed facility in terms of moving traffic, with the tremendous volumes of traffic that we were then experiencing on St. Joe and on Main Street, which were the pair of streets carrying traffic known as US 27. Actually, Main Street was US 27. It was a two-way street, and it was almost impossible to function. Mm-hmm. So there's no question of what was needed. The question was whether it could have been routed in a slightly different manner. Mm-hmm. To move it would have admittedly created other problems, affecting our major employer, Oldsmobile. They would have been encroaching on the areas that they felt they needed for growth. It unfortunately had to go through an area which was going to take out some historical and architecturally attractive residences, no matter where it went. From the river to the north, for 2 or 3 blocks, there were priceless residences in terms of antiquity and history. And wherever it went, some had to be removed. So it was
it's a shame.
the state. Yeah, it was just too bad. The state wasn't unrealistic. We may have been unrealistic in trying to prevent the loss that we experienced.
That's too bad.
I guess it's the price of progress.
It's a big price sometimes. What about your own neighborhood? Where do you live now?
I don't live in the city of Lansing now. I live in East Lansing.
East Lansing.
In an apartment, and I don't have to cut grass. I don't have to shovel snow.
While
We
you,
lived in the west side.
while you were in council and,
While I was in the city council, on Kalamazoo Street and then on Jennison. And we lived in Murninghan then. After I left the mayor's office, we've been on the west side practically all of our lives. My wife grew up on 227 South Jennison. We lived at 115 South Jennison after we were married, and had our children there. Raised them to a great extent there. So we're West Siders.
you see any changes in that neighborhood since you were
Oh, there are
raising your
always
young family?
changes in any neighborhood over a period of time. But I think that still the West Side's a great place to live in terms of relationship to the community. It's only 10 blocks to the middle of downtown. You can walk, ride a bike, or take a bus. Lansing is a large city, but the west side and the downtown is a small area, relatively speaking.
Well, thanks for staying the extra few minutes with us here. Appreciate your adding your comments on about one of the major events that happened during your term of office, and that's the building of the interstate through the city. It's always a topic of conversation in historical groups. So thank you.